All right, welcome. We are live. Well, you won't be watching this live, but Gaucher and I are live. So welcome to Brews with Dubes. I'm your host, Mark Doobie. I'm here tonight with a good friend, a longtime coaching colleague, adversary, teammate, but most of all, a great friend. And that's Coach Jay Gaucher. Jay, thanks for being
What's
on
up,
tonight with
dudes?
us. Not
Good
much.
seeing you.
Yeah, it's great to see you too in these really strange times that we've got to be on video calls to do this kind of thing. But
Yeah. Crazy
um,
spring break, right?
yeah, right. Spring break, but not. We've been on break for a month. I mean, I guess if you want to
Yeah.
call it a break, it's been.
I think we were supposed to have a game today, too. I think we were
Yeah,
supposed to
I've
have
been
a
seeing
game.
that on my calendar. All these games that we're supposed to have
Yeah.
scheduled, and it's nuts. And you know what?
Yeah.
It's been cold. Like the last couple of days have been nasty. I've been running outside while I'm going.
Yeah.
You know, if we were in session, we'd be at practice or we'd be playing E.O. Smith or whoever. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, there's not enough layers to wear. You know, we
No.
do it. We layer, and it doesn't matter. You're still freezing by the end of the
Yeah,
day.
especially this year, we would have probably been back at the high school because the fields were dry and
Yep,
there's nowhere to escape the wind down there.
nasty
Nowhere.
wind. I mean, just brutal. So, I mean, listen, to be honest, I would take it back in a second. I know you would too.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's really
Yeah.
strange. As great as much as you wish that you're home, you know, it's like, oh, I can't wait for the weekend or I can't wait for a
Yeah.
vacation. When you've had a month of it and it's knocked you out of your routine, you almost wish that
Hmm.
you were back.
Hmm.
And I feel a
Yeah.
little bit like that. So,
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
grass is always
Absolutely.
greener.
Yeah, I know. I like even throwing a baseball, like I've thrown like I play catch with Emma, but playing catch with like an 11-year-old is
Yeah.
different than like throwing BP every day or whatever. Actually, probably throw just as hard as you would ask some of the guys, but just throwing every day and hitting fungos and just doing that stuff,
Yep.
So
Keeping you
it's
busy,
crazy. Yeah.
getting in that routine. But we'll see.
Hmm.
You know, one day at a time. And
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
One day at a time.
All right, so let's start talking about you. And I want to start at the beginning. I want to start with just your background, when you started baseball, and then I think the really juicy part of your story that a lot of people don't know about is the fact that baseball wasn't even your best sport as a kid, as a developing
No.
young man.
Yeah.
And so I think
Yeah.
we'll lead into that. But talk about your beginnings with baseball and what league you played in, and just some great
So
memories that you had.
yeah, so I was a T-ville guy. It was Thompsonville Little League. Started playing. I remember being my dad dragging me to my brother's practices, and just to tag along, and when you're and then starting in T-ball, and just continuing to play. Like now, like Little League's not the same what it used to be anymore, and stuff like that. So like I always think like how would have you and I fallen, like our generation, the way it is now? Like how long would we stayed in Little League before we moved to true travel ball, like true AU ball, like a TCB team, like those AP teams, the real travel summer teams, and stuff like that? Would we try to do both, or like how would our parents handle it? Because I know your parents are like mine; they were super frugal, so
Yep.
probably would have been a battle. But so yeah, I started when I was younger. My dad was coaching my brother's teams, and then he would help coach mine, and I just felt like I was at a baseball field every single day. It was like the only rec sport that they let us play. And then the only other thing they let us do, my brother did rec basketball one year, and then I tried to play football. They wouldn't let me play Ramblers. They didn't let us play rec basketball. Just the only time we played basketball was in our back court and backyard. So then the only thing that we also did was swim, and I think that's for them. It was probably best bang for the buck because it was all year
Yep.
and it wasn't that expensive. So we did that. I did that all the way through, and um, those were the two sports that I played sort of organized until I got to high school.
Yep.
So and
So
then
talk about
go ahead.
swimming. The fact that
Oh,
you know, for a
yeah,
while at least, you found a real home.
yeah. Swimming when I was younger. We had a good group. It was me and like three other guys. Like the four of us were like a really good like relay team and stuff like that. But overall, like I was the anchor. I was the sprinter of the team, which is funny because I'm not really a fast runner,
Yep.
but I was like the sprinter, and I anchored all the relays, and I did freestyle and butterfly and backstroke. And from I was not, I think I was 10, 11, and 12. I was the number points wise. I was ranked number one in Connecticut for my age group,
Yep.
all the way through for those 3 years. And then, you know, I remember when summer I was 12, and I wanted to go to baseball practice. I had swim practice the same day. My parents dragged me to swim practice instead, and I was like, no, I'm not swimming anymore. I'm going back to baseball.
Yep.
So that was my last time I swam, and then I tried it my freshman year because some of my friends were like, come on, try it, and I wasn't doing basketball yet because we didn't have freshman basketball. And I was like, there's no way I was going to make that JV team as a freshman because they only kept like 2 freshmen. So I did swimming, and I felt like I was going to drown that first few times. Like, just it was so different after taking 3-4 years off and all of a sudden trying to jump in the pool again. It was crazy.
So talk a little bit about Little League Baseball. When you were 10, 11, and 12, did you play did you get to play All-Stars as a 12-year-old?
I played All-Stars as an 11-year-old and a 12-year-old.
11 and 12.
10 we didn't have. There wasn't the younger divisions like they have now. So, but I remember like one of my fondest memories was I remember I was 9 years old, opening day. Remember how it was such a huge thing.
Yep.
And my brother's team, I think he was 11, and they didn't have enough guys. So I was able to sort of step on and play with them. And even though it was just an exhibition, it was like,
Sure.
I felt like being a 9-year-old playing with the 10, 11, 12-year-olds, the 11, 12-year-olds was such a big deal.
Absolutely.
So, and then Mr. Owens was actually my Little League coach when I was 12 for Lions Club. That was the year we broke Mount Carmel's streak. I think they won it like 4 years in a row. And that was the year with Mr. Scalia. You have number Mr. Scalia?
Yep.
He was, so, and then we beat them that year to win the championship, which is funny. You remember those like little things, so.
Yeah, but those are great memories, especially with some success, and gosh,
Yeah.
I can't remember. I played Hazardville or Enfield Little League. So T-ville, where it was Zone 8 too, right? I mean, it was right.
Yeah.
Gosh, but I don't remember how those playoffs worked out.
I think I'm trying to remember when we were 11. I think we won maybe 1 or 2 games, and when we were 12. I think we won a game, but just T-ville, we weren't as strong. It was like me, Fazina, a few other guys. We just didn't have the depth that Enfield Little League had. So,
right.
Enfield Little League the same year had like Eric White, Luke Cash, all those guys, Rosignol. That team was loaded.
Yeah, those kids
Seagraves and all those guys. So.
Yeah, they were good. They were really good. They were a year or 2 younger than me, but
they were big too. They were full-grown men as 12-year-olds.
Yep.
So
big time. Especially White.
Yeah.
White was tremendous. I think it won the state there. It was like 89 or 90.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, it was a year or 2 after. My 12-year-old year was 88. I think yours was probably 89.
Something like that, yeah.
If you did the math on it. But so when you went to JFK, did you play baseball or try out? Because during our era, it was hard to make that team. Big jump.
I didn't because since I was I was like you, a late birthday, so I didn't try out, and then I was going to try out in 8th grade, and I just didn't because I was nervous of playing on a little field, playing on the big field, and how I was going to adjust. So I never did, but that was like one of those like regrets of like, oh, I wish I played JFK, but like I've seen some JFK baseball, and it's great that the kids get extra baseball, but it's really not what you think it is. Like, you know what I mean? Back in the day, you were thinking it was the utmost because they didn't have travel baseball.
Right.
That was travel baseball for junior high.
That was the big time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point.
But now, like, kids, it's like, oh, all right. Because I remember talking to Mike when he was coaching. He's like, I can't throw this kid today because he's pitching this weekend, and this kid and that and so forth.
And that's a real, that's the way you have to manage it. You can't, you got to share the kid. You got to do right by them. And if they're playing on another team, you got to kind of play ball with that. And
hold on, dude. That's really nice. You drew that? We should make that a poster. Yeah. You want to do that? Yeah. All right. It matches your PJs. All right. Can I show Dubes? Can I show Dubes? What she drew? She drew Tangled.
Outstanding. I love the tower there.
Leave it right here it's on our desk. All right. Close that door, babe.
Good job. Yeah. Listen, a lot of drawing these days for sure, man. Geez, my gosh. Yeah. Sure. We're trying to journal, but.
We just had an intense game of dominoes.
Oh, cool. You were playing legit, like with the adding and everything?
Oh, yeah.
Good. Not just setting them up and then tipping them over.
No, true dominoes. It was
Remember
awesome.
Domino's in the early '90s, like when that was like a part of the rap culture or whatever. But like
Yeah,
we used to play it, throw the bones, man.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but I was just thinking about JFK. When we were younger, that was a major team to play for. That
Hmm.
was the
Hmm.
major team. You're right about. I
Yeah.
mean, maybe there was travel ball, but we didn't have access to it, at least
No,
not in our
no,
community.
no.
And then as we got older and we became coaches, we used to have to. I don't know. The town would beg people after Coach Herbie Cole's there, and I coached it for 2 years.
Yeah,
They were begging people to
yeah,
coach the team, and it just wasn't a premium
yeah.
thing anymore, sadly. But
No.
you
And
know,
it's trying to balance for those kids too, because like I know like Emma, my oldest, she played JFK soccer, JFK basketball, but she was also playing travel basketball and she played CFC soccer and was like trying to balance everything. And for her, like we always told her, your school team, even though you're paying for like your CFC, we're like, that's your priority right now because that's your town, that's your community and stuff like
yeah,
that. But a lot of people don't see it that way, like, hey, if I'm paying $2,000 for this, that's my first priority. So, but
sure,
but I think that's the coach and that's probably the local in me saying like, you know what, whatever we wear on our shirt, we take pride in,
yeah.
where we live and stuff like that.
I think that's a good way to look at it. But it's the new normal. I think
Yeah.
every kid is doing that.
Hmm.
Every athlete is
Hmm.
doing that now. So it's
Yeah. If you're in high school and you're not playing on the right travel ball team, it's tough to be exposed now because as you and I both know, like as high school coaches, we're more of the reference check now. Hey,
yeah,
tell me what he is. Tell me what that athlete's doing on an everyday. Like it stinks, but it's really the reality now. Like we get calls about, hey, tell me how he is. I saw him play this summer. How is he academically? How is he as a teammate? What does he practice like every day? But
yep,
it's more of that. It's not like, I mean, you'll get kids here and there to be seen, but it's just the way baseball is. And think about it, if you're a college coach and you could go on a weekend and see 50 prospects
yeah,
instead of one day drive all the way out to Tallinn to see one kid.
yeah.
You know, I
That's
mean,
true.
we've had a lot of scouts at our games to see our kids, but
Yeah,
it's more of a follow up to see them more of a more structured team. So,
yeah. That's a good point. That's a very good point. So let's talk a little bit about your high school playing days, because you were a multi-sport athlete. You
hmm,
talked about swimming for a tiny
yeah,
bit, but then that actually
yeah,
you led into being a basketball player. You played.
yeah,
We'll talk about your football career too, and then
yeah,
in baseball. But
yeah. So
let's.
I played baseball 4 years. Freshman year, I played JV for Corsati.
Yep,
Sophomore year, I had like I think one or two call ups, and that was cool. Like being able to just like sit the bench with the varsity as a
absolutely.
freshman.
Yep.
I think I got in one game to pinch run, and I think I made the biggest, widest turnaround third. Like I don't think I ever thought I was going to score. I'm like, where the hell am I going? Um, and then sophomore year, I started a few games, broke in the lineup a little bit, played. I would say probably started more than half the games. I felt like, if I could remember, that's so long ago.
Yep.
Junior year was pretty much an outfielder, played a little bit of first base, and then senior year I was an outfielder and pitched every time that I was eligible to pitch.
Yep.
And then football I played 4 years, and then basketball I played my junior senior year.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, that's awesome. I mean, the fact that you played 3 seasons,
Mm,
multi-time varsity letter winner
yeah,
is a huge part, I think, of your story. And
yeah,
also I think something I've seen you do with our players and our athletes, not just our players, but any kid that comes through there, is you preach to them about being a multi-sport athlete. And so talk a little bit about that philosophy, because it's a big,
it's funny.
that's what you were, and now that's what you
Yeah,
want kids to do
well,
too.
I've changed with that though. I used to say like my philosophy now is if you're a freshman, play 3 seasons.
Yep.
Play 3 seasons, see what's out there, try something new. And then, but I also feel like if you are a premier athlete, like a
Mm,
premier like kid, like say for example, like your ticket is baseball
yep.
and you play another sport, I want you to do that. But I also think you need to take one of those other seasons and not play a third sport and take that to focus in on to hone your skills, working out, getting stronger, getting faster,
Yeah.
improving whatever it is as a pitcher, as a hitter, if it's baseball, whatever sport, if you're a hockey kid or whatever it is. Like
Yep.
I had a conversation with one of my basketball girls and sensational freshman. And she was like, yeah, I think I'm going to do this in the fall, in the spring. And I said to her, why? She's like, well, I want to. I said, okay. I said, I get that, but you want to be a college athlete, and she has the potential. And she's like, yeah. And I said, well, I'm not going to tell you no, but I said, honestly, I said, you really need to take one of those seasons where you have summer, because in the summer, they're gonna be the athletes, whatever sports, they're gonna be on their AAU team if they're
Right.
that. So you need to take those 3 months to let your body recover and also build muscle, build that armor, get faster, get stronger, throw and hit in all whatever your skill set is. So so now really my philosophy is I want kids to play 2 sports. But it's got to be like, because I think it just helps your body grow, helps you grow as an athlete. So I really encourage 2. 3, if a kid's doing 3, I'm not gonna tell them not to.
Sure.
If they're already committed, but if they were like, oh, I want to try this, I'm gonna tell them honestly, like I told that girl, I'm like, don't do it. It's not gonna benefit you long term.
Yep.
So.
And that's good. It sounds like there's a lot of balance in that. You're playing
Mm-hmm.
another sport. It's a different dynamic. There's different, muscle memory there. You're playing for a different
Mm-hmm.
coach, a different system, a different locker
Yeah.
room. But then you're also getting right, as the air gets thinner and you're getting to the top of the mountain, you really have to start specializing a little bit to really
Yeah.
prepare yourself to play on that
Mm-hmm.
level, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely, I agree.
it's a
That's sort
good
of where
thought.
I've come with that.
So let's talk about that 94 year. So your senior year, in the Battle of Powder Hollow, it's become lore.
Oh,
Really,
jeez.
we all know about the '01 boys who went to the
Yeah.
final, and they developed so many great players. They were within, outs of winning this whole
Oh,
thing, and we all know that the boys and that team is in the Hall of Fame, and
they deserve to be.
rightfully so,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
Riles really sort of started all this. I mean, he's had a lot of reasons, but he really wanted to do the '94. That was
Mm-hmm.
the team he was the shortstop for, one of the pitchers
Yeah.
for. You were the ace of the team. But anyway, talk about that run that you guys had that year. I mean, that was just
So
an
yeah,
awesome.
we had a great run, and it was funny. I was thinking about this the other day, and we actually started out really slow, and I was remembering, and I remember we talked a while ago, and I remember I got hurt in basketball. Was like one of our last weeks. I went up to grab a rebound in practice, and I landed on the side of my foot. It was my right ankle, and I remember I did PT for like 3 weeks just to try to play one more basketball game, and I could not put any pressure on it. So like the first, I remember like 2 weeks um of baseball, and probably even a little bit longer, I was slow, like because that was my landing foot.
Yeah,
And like I was like, wow, I said, wow, we started off slow. I didn't really, and like I pitched, I mean, Riley started game 1, I started game 2. And then I think he started game 3, I started game 4, and then I started game 5, 6, 7, whatever it was. But
sure.
like I think part of it was that we got slow was, I was coming off an injury,
Yep,
so I wasn't full speed, but also we lacked confidence early in the year. I mean, football we weren't good. We were
yep,
0-10. We had where we almost forfeited seasons, where we forfeited the year before, where one of our captains went in and, you know, wanted to basically say we couldn't play Manchester. So that wasn't a good year. Basketball, we won, I think, 1 game.
yep,
Hockey, I think ice hockey was really our only true boys team that was winning games. Our soccer team wasn't good.
yep,
So I think the ability to know how to win and to learn to win, I remember that was one of the things that said that a lot, was like, you got to have a winner's mentality. And
yep,
if you don't believe you can win, you're never going to win.
yep,
And so like, so we started off slow. I mean, we played decent, but we just didn't ever get over that hump, because when
yep,
things got close, eh, we're unfair. We expect to lose because that's what we've done in all our other teams.
yep.
So the clip, man, I don't remember the game. I don't know if it was South Windsor or Manchester, but it just clicked. It's like a 1-hitter or 2-hitter against Manchester. They were like number 4, number 5 in the state. We beat them at the Hollow, and then we just started to have some confidence. We just started winning games, and we started making the plays, and then a lot of small ball, and then a big hit here and there, and good defense. And one thing with me as a pitcher was I'd strike out maybe 6 guys, 7 guys a game, but I pitched to contact, and I didn't walk many guys. So our guys were, and I'd get the ball, and you've played with me, get the ball and throw. Let's go,
Love
let's
it.
go.
Yep,
And I think that kept our defense ready to go. So
yep,
our guys made some phenomenal plays in the field. Papa Petro, Brett and Brian up the middle.
yep.
Even Fazina third made some plays. So, and then we had Beauchene behind the plate. He was a wall. Mercican left. You know, we had a really good team. Then we had Miller and Wright. So we had a freshman that helped out.
Yep.
So, yeah, it was just like, it just clicked, you know, it just started clicking.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it was Chief could say it, and I know we all knew it had been a long time coming for the team to make the
Hmm.
tournament and
Hmm.
then to get in there and do some damage and really contend. And I know Chief had the philosophy that he was going to make the schedule demanding, and
Yeah.
I'll be damned if we make it or not. If we make it, then we're going to be prepared for tournament baseball. If we don't make it, then we didn't deserve to. And
Yeah.
I think you know that was, I don't know, that was the right thing to do. But being on the other side of it as a coach, that when I started coaching, we struggled so bad. It had been 22 years since we made a tournament. All I cared about was making the tournament. We were going to play, the cripples of the world
Hmm.
and make it. That was
Yeah.
my philosophy. And then after that, we tried to rebuild and really be a
Well,
viable threat in a
well,
tournament. But I appreciated that. I mean, I
yeah.
think looking back on it now, it makes your tournament run that much more legitimate,
Yeah.
because y'all made it on. You didn't play any layups. CCC's was
No.
tough back then,
Yeah.
and Chief was scheduling Berlin and Norwich and
NFA.
that infield
Yeah.
tournament there,
Yep.
Simsbury. They were always really
Hmm.
tough
Yeah.
teams.
Yeah.
So y'all made it, and
Yeah.
when you got there, you were ready. You guys played
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, it's funny when you talk about scheduling, because I think when you and I were talking about scheduling like our games, like, all right, dudes, we got 4 non-league. Who do we want to fill in and stuff like that? And we're like, you know, like if you think about this year, we're like, all right, we got a good core coming back, but we also have some youth. So while the year before, we're like, all right, let's load up with some heavy hitters.
Where
You know,
we want.
we had 9 seniors, 10 seniors. Let's load it up and let's get them ready. And like, we didn't even care if we won or lost those
Right,
non-league, but we wanted them to see sort of that next level to
right.
get them ready for the tournament. Well, this year was like, okay, let's put a little mix. Let's put
Yep.
let's put maybe a soft one to build some confidence. I did the same thing in basketball this past year. We put 2, and it's like, next year, that's not the schedule, so
Yep.
it's you have to bend, you have to mix to make what happens, and it depends on your league. Like, I remember when we were in the NCCC, when I started coaching baseball in the NCCC, and they're like, coach, what's up with this non-league game? I'm like, guys, if we can't win 40% of our games in the NCCC, we do not deserve to be in the state tournament.
Sure.
And they're like, yeah, that's true. But also, I get your point too, but there was also times when I remember we were playing Bloomfield twice, Harper Public twice.
Right.
It's like, guys, that's 4 wins.
Yep.
Like, if you don't beat them 4 times, then you tell me we can't find 4 more in our record. So
Right. Exactly. And I think, again, we get back to that word balance. You
yeah,
can't play, Duke and UNC and all the big boys every year. You got to know your
no,
team and know who's new and who's leaving, and then
hmm,
if you can adjust accordingly, then you should do that.
yeah,
But
yeah.
so let's talk a little bit about you go into college, and then you come out of college, and you're looking at a career.
All right, so let's talk. That's actually probably, like, if you ask my buddies who are gonna probably watch this later and laugh, and I'll guarantee I'll get some text messages. Like, going to school, I did enough to get by, and I think that was my crew. Me, Riley, Fazina,
Yep.
we just did just enough to get by, and
Yep.
I was probably the ringleader of that. And like we've talked, and I share with my students, I have dyslexia and it's a learning disability, and I never knew what it was. But coming out of high school, I had 2 opportunities to play in college. I had an opportunity to play football at Southern. I had an offer from them, and I had an offer from Central to go play baseball there. But academically, I couldn't get in with my SATs and
Yep.
all that stuff. So, so there was a few other options. But to my parents, were like, dude, you're not committed enough to school. So
Right.
if you want to go to school, you're going to go to Snuntuck. So I went to Snuntuck for 2 years, and then transferred up to Westfield State, tried out for their team. I made their team. I was going to start playing, and then some stuff happened at home, and sort of moved back home and started commuting. My grandmother got ill, so I was trying to help my mom with that stuff, and then my mom and dad. And then I started coaching. I think I was 20, 19, 20. George Thomas asked me if I wanted to coach freshman football. So I coached freshman football, and I felt like I was still involved in sports, but I was making a better impact than just playing baseball, which I would have loved to still do. But I started doing that. So I did that. And then I helped Brum for those years I was at Snuntuck. And then I actually ended up coaching softball for 4 years, just because I love Brum, but I also wanted to have some sort of more input and say about what I do, what's going on. And I wanted to be able to prove that I could sort of run a program.
Yep.
So I did that for 4 years. And then when Bob left, Brum left, I took the jump from softball to baseball and did that for, I think it was 10 years. And then stepped away for 3 years, was just some family stuff. And then I knew I'd have the opportunity to reapply. And so I reapplied, and then, which was awesome, because then you and I have always talked about coaching together and
Yep.
trying to get the boys back together and stuff like that, and build a great team and program and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to go back and just make a comment about you taking the softball team. There is some merit in having your own bus to drive.
Mm-hmm.
And running your own program and running your own practices and learning how to order uniforms and learning how to figure out booking officials and getting them paid and communicating with parents and coming up with team policies, and all that stuff can only happen when the reins are in your hands and the team is yours. And it doesn't even matter what the sport is, whether it could be girls tennis and softball. It was a perfect fit, I think, for you. Obviously with the giant baseball background and just the ability to coach whatever and play multiple sports.
I coached it like baseball.
Yeah.
The only thing so Andy Tarbuck's our softball coach now. She was our pitcher. I had no idea about pitching. So I said, all right. So I said, when's your pitching lesson? So I went with her to her pitching coach, and I said,
oh, that's awesome.
Just tell me a few of her keys. Cause I said, I'm not gonna be able to teach. I don't know how to teach any of these kids how to pitch softball.
Right.
Like that was the one thing, I had no idea about pitching softball.
Yeah.
But we played great defense, and like we hit the ball, we ran the bases hard.
Yep.
It was like the things, like I remember I had a mother one day say, because we had a practice, and she goes, they're girls. I'm like, no, they're athletes. They're athletes first. I go, they signed up to be an athlete first. I get it that there's certain limitations, but I'm going to hold them to an athlete standard.
Yep.
So, but it was good. It was good. And then I was able to come back. Not that I didn't enjoy my time with Brum, but I just also wanted to have an opportunity to see how I'd run sort of a hardball program on my own before, because I knew there'd be a time that Brum would step away.
Yep.
So it was a little sooner than I thought, but
sure.
So
let's talk about you being the youngest head coach in Connecticut history as a football coach. You talked about having that freshman job, and then one thing led to another, and it was like, holy crap, here I am 21 years old, and you had a chance to apply, and you got the job. So Coach Thomas left for South Windsor in July or end of June, right after spring practice. I remember we were at a fundraiser, and he was telling us, I think we were at a car wash, and we were talking, and he had applied, and he was basically going to let the guys know, and he's like, I'm going to recommend you for the head coaching position. I'm like, okay. I was like, I love it, and I was balancing school, being a full-time student. I switched my major from business while I was actually finishing off, and I was moving into phys ed, which worked out well for me in the long run. And then, so I was doing that at, I think it was like 21, 22, Duffy hired me. So that was interesting at times, because I'm coaching guys that are 3 years younger than me. One of our guys on staff, Mazzone, freak. I coached him, and he was probably 18 years old, and I was 21 years old. Different.
So he's, and I was an assistant then, but then like the Urak brothers and like Sanchez, those guys, a lot of those guys were some of my first few years. And so it was just learning, trying to do all that stuff. And the biggest thing there was being 21, 22 years old and managing adults, because you have so many different personalities. And the first few years was just trying to put a staff together. Right. I had 2 guys coming from Springfield. Armando was coaching with me. But the guys from Springfield were great guys. They knew football, but there was some other stuff about them that just didn't make them good coaches. So now as a 22-year-old, I'm telling 30, 35-year-olds that, listen, we don't want to renew your this is not a spot for you. This is not the type of program we want to run.
Yeah.
So that we had to change that. Can you close that door? Hold on.
No worries.
Sorry, I think they're all going to bed. So
Yeah.
we may have to move this downstairs, but that's fine.
No, no
So
worries.
I'll talk and walk. So
Yeah, that's
I
cool.
go downstairs so that way I don't keep them up. Hold on. Go ahead, Dubes. Next
Yeah,
question.
I had a thought about that. Football is unique that way. You need a giant staff, giant in terms of if you compared it to basketball or baseball. And
Big
then the
time.
whole idea that not everybody is going to turn out to be great, and that conversation is not easy. That I don't think they necessarily teach you that in school.
No.
And then again, in coaching training, there's not a lot of coaching training. So
No, there's not. They don't. Yeah, you don't learn that stuff. They don't teach you that at all.
That's just like that. And again, it goes back to what we're saying. You don't know how to do this stuff until you have to do it. And I guess that never crossed my mind because I never, I don't have a football background at all. But yeah, there's 6, 8, 10, 12 adults.
Big time.
Invariably, you're going to have an issue with a couple of them, and that's really interesting. So,
all right,
hold
on. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna go lower a chair.
No worries, brother. Take your time.
No, go ahead. I can hear you. Go ahead, Mark. What's your question?
What I was wanting to ask is, talk about what it's like to coach in a football game. I'm thinking specifically about Enfield Fermi, but you've coached in tournament games. Like you've brought Enfield High, you made the state tournament, which is way harder to do in football than any other sport. There's only a finite number of teams. But there's, when the Enfield Fermi game, you were coaching, you played through them, and you were coaching when we used to have 4,000 and 5,000 people at this game. What's that feel like? What was that like to be a part of that?
Dude, that was like super intense. It's like, think about dudes like with baseball when we have those state playoff games, and it's like lose, win, and go on, lose or go home, and then like just a big play happens, and like you hear the whole crowd erupt or something like that. Yep. And it's just crazy because especially those games, it didn't matter what your record was.
Right.
You could have Enfield being 0-10, Fermi being 0-10, or one team being 8-2, and one team being 2-8.
Yep.
And it don't matter because that'd be the best week of practice, and kids would get after it. And it was like, if we could have practiced like this every day all year, probably be 8-2 instead of 4-5, 4-4, 5-6.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I just think back to being a part of those just as a spectator.
Oh, I remember those as a kid going.
Right when you're a little kid, and then even when you're a college kid, you come back and see your friends, and you'd see kids from the 80s there, and whatever, just adults and people sipping and just being a part of that whole scene.
Well, I think that was probably for me one of the most craziest things was that first time when you go and you're like, when I was coaching, I'm like, wait a minute, I'm coaching this game. I remember being in 5th grade, 6th grade, my parents dropping me off, and I let my dog out. Yep. And all of a sudden, 5th or 6th grade, and my parents dropping me off, and then next thing you know, now I'm coaching it. I'm on the sideline trying to coach.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Sorry, dudes. No, that's all right, brother. That's super cool to me. I mean, that to me is awesome, right? Like, I get it. It's just high school sports, but like it's probably like I don't know, a major league baseball player, right? He used to go to Yankee Stadium, and then all of a sudden he's pitching for the Yankees. Like on a smaller scale, it's the same idea. I'm trying to remember who
said it, and it was somebody who they were coaching their 5th. I saw it on Twitter, and they were coaching their daughter's 5th grade basketball game, and he's like, I coach this game like I was coaching maybe it was like the NCAA championship game. And it's just you can invest whatever you're coaching, man. If I was coaching bocce, if you gotta, we always talk about this, you gotta invest yourself. If you don't invest yourself in it, then you're doing yourself and also those kids a disservice.
Yeah.
But I think those emotions and stuff like that, man, you can't beat them. I remember the Friday night games were pretty crazy for football, because you'd first start getting lights and all that. Now it's like a norm. Every team has lights. But I remember when we were in the state tournament, and Jack Griffin, Ruben, Mike Aganastu, we used to say, "Bring the wood." That was, I think, Ritter. I think that was Ritter and Murray's thing. And so they were so psyched before the game. They went and they chopped down a tree, but they had no axe. They had a sledgehammer, and honestly, it was like a 8-foot tree, 10-foot tree. So they're bringing this thing in and they're carrying it like this.
Yeah.
And they walk in and they shoulder press it, the three of them, and they slam it down. And we had those makeshift lights on ladders, and it hits the light, and I start to see it wave. And I look at our AD, Trish, at the time. I'm like, oh man, she's gonna fire me. She's gonna fire me. I'm 23 years old. I'm getting fired because we broke lights in our state tournament game.
Yeah.
But those things are just like those are just those memories. I think just seeing the game and seeing the emotion through those kids, like we've talked about that. Like right now, like hopefully something could happen for spring sports and like all those kids. A lot of those like winter sport athletes, hockey and basketball, they never had that closure. They never had that chance to.
They got cut short.
Because that's for some of them, that's they're gonna play. So. But.
Yeah, you make a good point. I did have a strong thought about that the other day. That you know, I have a lot of things in my life that are really important, and I know you do too. You know, being a dad and getting married and having a job in Enfield, but a big part of my story is my senior year playing baseball at Enfield High.
Yeah,
I got that. I got to experience that. I got to make that what it was. These kids are on the precipice of having that not occur and having that erased from their history. Yeah. And that's pretty terrible thing. It wasn't making that much of a difference to me because it's not happening to me. But when I thought about this the other day, that I got my senior year, but what if we went back in time and we had a world pandemic and it erased my senior year? You know, that would have greatly affected my legacy for sure. And so
what would have been like?
You know, it just would have been awful. It would have been awful. So I really hope something can happen, you know, and like I said at the beginning of our talk, is just one day at a time, and just kind of see what happens and where it goes.
Yeah, I'm happy that the CIAC hasn't decided anything yet, and maybe they don't want to be the bad guy, but you know, there's hope, you know, and like I think one of the important things is like us as coaches is not dwell on it. Like, hey, we should be here today. Let's find some positive stuff and let's talk to them about that. Let's text them and hey, how you guys doing? And like the other day, I was cleaning out my my garage and I found a box or a bag of dill sunflower seeds, and Clay Ryan used to always love them. He's like, oh, they're the best. And I remember getting them and I was like, they were so gross. So when I found them, I took a picture and sent him. I go, Clay, I go, I wonder if these are stale. He goes, they're the best seeds ever. But like things like that, like you know, like things like that. Like I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh man, we should be playing Mottville today and stuff like that.
Right.
So.
Yep. No, it's a great way to look at it. So let's talk a little bit about girls basketball.
Okay.
You know, just something that, again, I don't want to say it fell in your lap because that's not maybe the way it did, but you found this girl's position like by happenstance, right? I mean, it wasn't something inspired.
So, no. So, you know, I coached actually when I first started coaching. I was a college student, so I coached freshman boys basketball for I think 4 years, and then just when I started becoming a head football coach, it just became too much with everything else. So I gave up the winter season. I just said I couldn't do 3 seasons, and so I was doing faculty manager. Alyssa, our youngest, was born. Stace was staying home. They couldn't find a JV coach, so I was like, you know what? I said, I don't mind helping out. I said, you know what? I enjoyed coaching female athletes. So I talked to the coach and I said, you know, hey, here's some things. This is some of my philosophy stuff. And I said, this is your program, but I said, these are a few things that I believe. And if we could work together, I'll do it. So she's like, yeah, definitely. So I coached with her. She got in a car accident, like the last month and a half of the season. So I ended up running both the JV and varsity team. And then the following year, she wasn't coming back. And and I didn't know what I was going to do. I was like, I enjoyed coaching. And but then 3 of the girls actually, coach, we really want you to be our coach. And they actually approached Mr. Duffy about it. And I was like, and the principal and the AD, and I'm like, okay. I said, and I was like, all right, cool. I said, and I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. And so I put my name in, and we had a good freshman class that my first year with like Regina LeBlanc, Erica Lovering, and all them. And I think that was the first time. It was probably like in 15 years or something, like 10 years, that we made that. That was sort of like with you with baseball. Like it was the first time that we made states. We won 8 games, and we went to Cromwell and we got our butt kicked. But I was like you're like, hey, you know what? We made it. We stopped at like a Dairy Queen afterwards and got them all ice cream. I was like, girls, think about where we've come. And so for the seniors they left a great legacy. We had a good freshman group. No idea the talent was coming in the following year.
Sure.
And we had some Division I athletes come in, and it makes it easier. It makes your job easier. Like you and I joked around about this, like the line that we wanted to use with the parents, So
yeah, absolutely.
But that makes it a little bit easier.
It's it definitely does. You need horses to drive the cart.
Yep.
But those athletes, and I'm not specifically talking about those that cohort of girls that did such an amazing job. I'm just talking about greatness or great players in general. They do have to be managed, and what they bring along is expectation. When you are expected to do well, there's a lot of pressure there. There's a lot there. There's just something to measure up to, and you do have to deliver. Whereas when you're underestimated, it's almost a little bit, you get to be the underdog. If you don't do well, you know what? That's what the world thought of us anyway. And when you do well, you kind of look like coach of the year a little bit. But if you've got a lot of ability, and then all of a sudden, things are tumbling on you, or you're struggling, or you're at 500, boy, that's all that weight. You start to feel that as a coach.
The expectations are so much different at times, and I think that's the tough thing. Is like I think we used to always talk in the office and like, how would you? Oh, you guys won by 20. I'm like, yeah, we didn't play great. We could have done this. We could have done that. And I remember you were like scratching your head and like talking around. I was like, you just won by like 20. What's he talking about? But you have to. There's different like different goals. Like if you're a really bad team, like okay, what's our goal today? Our goal today is play solid defense or something like that. Or even in baseball, hey, listen, let's have quality at bats. Let's try to make the routine plays and stuff like that. So you have to balance it. If you have a really good team, you're challenging them differently. So I think you got to always balance it. And I think doesn't matter the sport, an athlete's an athlete, and if you have potential, now how are you going to push them to be a little bit better? I think that's always the job as the coach.
Yeah, without a doubt. Those are great thoughts. I was just thinking about baseball now. Obviously coaching together. Combined high school, something that I think anybody who's ever been for Enfield from 1971 on probably thought about what would it like if the hockey team was one team, and football is the one we talk about the most, football and hockey. But now that we're there, we're all one program. Is there a moment that sticks out to you so far? A game that we've had? I know I've got a couple that I would think of. I don't want to share them right away.
No, there's a few. So I think our first year, because we were struggling a little bit, right? Just trying to blend everybody together. We had no scrimmages.
That's right. I forgot about that.
And, just trying to get everyone. And I'm trying to remember the game, but I just remember it was like it just sort of clicked. And I think it was, it was the first game of the year at Farmington. And we had no practice. We were never on the field. And all of a sudden we won like 10-0. And like
it was more than that. I think it was like 18-2, bro.
Whatever it was, but then our kids proved they could win together. And I remember going to E.O. Smith and us being in there, and I remember like Menaker, like just like being such a great teammate, sitting on the he was like I'm on the rally bucket and stuff like that.
Yep.
And then I remember our state tournament game when Elijah hit that ball, which I think was an absolute bomb, probably first ball I've ever seen hit. But it's just sort of, I remember little moments, but I don't remember like a certain game. Do you remember a game that sort of was like the deciding game that sort of flipped the switch for our team?
No, I don't. Not from that season. But gosh, you brought up some really good moments, and I actually amazingly forgot that Farmington game. Right, that was game 1. And we killed them, and the coach was mad at me for running up the score. That was my first game back in like 8 years, and here I am right back in the war of it, and the guy's picking a fight with me because I'm sending dudes from third. And
dude, but you know what the best thing about that was? we were talking in the dugout, and then the other kids were like, Coach, screw them. Like, it was like, it sort of brought the team together a little bit more. It was like a unity thing. So,
Without
but
a
I remember
doubt.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. And
Yeah.
let's talk about the end of, well, not, it wasn't, yeah, it was the end of last year. We played at Yard Goat Stadium
That was
against
awesome.
East Granby. Like, just talk about your feelings and what that was like. And
Oh, that was cool. You know, like you and I both knew going in that was going to be Brum's last game,
yep,
unless they beat us. And
right.
you know, we had, you know, I just we had Timmy on the mound. He was dealing, um, but like it was just cool to be able to say, like, for us as guys that Brum helped get us to where we were, to be able to say that we were there for his last game. You
Yep.
know, and it was great to say that we beat him. No offense, Bob, but you know, we don't want to lose. But it was cool. I mean, it was such an atmosphere, and it was a great way to recognize our seniors there. Um, you know, it was cool. Like hearing the crowd roar from a stadium compared to like a windy field in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, that was wild. That God, I got so many memories from that game, but you summed it up really well. My memories, my fond memories of it are being in that dugout with you and our guys wearing those colors,
Hmm.
and having Coach Brummage over there and Cookie in the dugout, and kind of
Yeah,
knowing the backstory that this was probably going to be it for him
yeah,
if we were victorious. And then looking in the crowd, and there was a ton of people there, like not like a Yard Goats game, but God, it was full. The
it
main
was
bowl
cool.
was full, and when there was a hit, you could hear it. Like,
Yeah,
that was nuts. And then in the
that was
crowds, like
awesome.
Brad Tweedley, Charlie Ragno was there, Steve Mortaccio was there. That
Toshio, he had
those
a
guys
lot.
are there visiting, paying
Yeah.
tribute there for Chief. I think they knew
Hmm.
too.
Yeah.
Um, that was
No, it
bonkers,
was
man.
cool.
That was a
It was
really, really
cool.
special game. So,
Yeah.
um, so let's talk about alumni baseball for a minute. So,
All right.
just what is it like to play in these games? We had the draft the first year, and that was crazy, and now it's kind of blossomed, and we've got more people involved, playing different towns, going to different states to play. I mean, what is it like for
So
you?
I remember the first year when Riley was like, "Hey, we're gonna get this together," and I'm like, "Yeah, right, okay." And so all of a sudden he gets off, like, okay. All of a sudden he gets off the plane. I'm like, "Holy shit, he's really here."
That's right.
Um, so then and then we're playing the game, and I'm like, so I started pitching, and I'm like, "All right, who else we got to pitch?" And Riley's like, oh, "I could probably throw like 2 pitches." And I was like, "All right, great." So then I remember, I think we were up like 7-2 or something like that.
Yep.
And it was like the sixth inning, and it was hot. And Riley got us
Very
this
hot.
like 1,000% cotton, like there were like wool shirts. And I remember coming off, and I said, my wife's like, "How you doing?" I said, "Good, I'm hot." I said, she's like, "Yeah." I go, "Mm-hmm." I said, I think I'm gonna let someone else pitch." And she looked at me. She goes, "What the fuck are you talking about?" I'm like, "Well, we're up." And she goes, "That's not you. Fucking finish your shit." I'm like,
Yep.
"Okay." I was like, and that's what I love about her, because that she's so competitive too, even though she said she's not.
Yep.
Um, but that was the first year, and then year two, Riley's idea to do the draft, and I'm like, so everyone's like, "Who you drafted?" And I was like, "On all, if you look at my team, I just drafted all my friends." I
Yep.
was like, "I'm playing with all my boys." I said, if I'm
Yeah.
doing this, I'm playing with all my boys.
Yep.
So that was fun. And then we did the decades and all that in the bubble. It's been cool. It's great to see people. It's great to connect older years and stuff like that. It was cool actually last year, added in Fermi. I don't think they realized what they were getting into. And
Sure.
I think this year, which I don't really probably see, it's probably, who knows what's going to happen,
Yep.
depending on if you ask Trump what phase we're on.
Yeah.
Um,
True.
but it was cool to bring them aboard and stuff like that, because, like you and I talked, what happens with this group or last year's group? They graduated as Eagles. If all of a sudden 5 years from now, 6 years from now, they want to play, who do they play for?
Yep.
And as we're trying to connect everyone together, because I think one of the best things about us, our alumni games and those pages, is we used to have so many alumni that would come to the games, and we'd be able to share stories of Charlie Ragno and this guy and this guy, and they're like, "Coach, who's that taking pictures?" Like, "That's Phil Dumont, class of so and so." And like we'd be just talking to them about it, and like, "This is awesome." And like mayors would be there and stuff like that. And I think it was the best thing about it is it's connecting all generations and stuff like that, because there's stuff that you and I don't know that we've learned so much over the years.
Yep.
I think that's the best thing.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. There's two parts of this for me. And I would say it's the baseball part. It's reinvigorated the lion inside of me to go and compete
Mm-hmm.
and play and then go play in Laconia, or I play with Mike
Mm-hmm.
Mayer and you know, in a summer league, and we were trying to get that going again this year, and you know,
Yeah.
things didn't work out. But and now we have the pandemic. No one's going to play, you know. But so I've loved that part of it. It's made me a baseball player again. I feel like I'm still a baseball player.
Yeah.
That I love, you know, even though those days are over. And then just getting to know the decades, getting to know each guy's story and
Yeah.
who went to school and what era and some of the stats and some of the cool stories. And you know, some of the guys that we have in the page, you know, Randy Ladd comes to mind, and Phil
Yeah.
Dumont just being the team photographer and the
Yeah.
historian, and what these guys have said and the pictures they've shared is, it's unbelievable to me. It's
Mm-hmm.
unique. There's very
Yeah.
few towns or very few sports organizations that are doing something like this, in my opinion.
No.
It's
No.
tremendous.
No.
And that's something I try to impress upon our students. You know, now that we have the Hall of Fame in our school, and kids pass by it, and we teach leadership. And one of the things I always try to say to them, and I don't know how much sticks to their brain or how much goes in this ear and goes out the other, but I always say, yo, when you got a minute, stop by and look at some of those damn plaques and read a couple of sentences, because what you're going to see is there is tremendous, ridiculous sports history on that wall. On every one of those plaques, there's something incredible. So I think that's really, really neat.
I have our kids always, when we're going to the bus, I always tell them, hey, read something, read something
I
about
love
somebody.
that. I'm so
And they
glad
always
that
read
you
one.
do that, because there's just a lot of magic there. And I would hope that kids would see that makes where they come from a little bit more special, because I think a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times what people do, not just in infield, but wherever, oh, I'm from so-and-so town. It's, oh, this place sucks. And it's like, I don't know, man, you need to have a better appreciation for the history of where you come from. And so I think we have a unique kind of gift, even though I don't know if it's the best spot for the Hall of Fame. Obviously the school is closed to the public. It's
See,
in a
I think
beautiful location. There's no doubt about that.
I think if you could put that hallway where the other hallway is, so like when people enter in for sporting events,
Yes, good
they
point.
could see it.
Yep.
Then you could see it, because that's like sort of hallways even off limits really during
Sure.
all sporting events, because
That's
you
right.
can't
They block it
supervise
off now.
So that's the tough thing. It's like, it's a
Yeah.
great idea, but other than the high school kids who see it, no, like senior center is a cool idea, but who sees it? Seniors, like, so I don't know. Maybe there needs to be a virtual with all this. Maybe we'll make a virtual Hall of Fame page or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the next step, and it would be accessible and up to date,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, I think people would
Yeah.
be able to access it. Well, this has been great. Is there anything else that we're leaving out, brother? I mean, gosh, there's so much more that I think we could say, but maybe we've said enough.
There's so much, but so little. So no, I just appreciate it. And like I always say, this is, I love what I do. I think you're in the same boat, as we love what we do. And I think for us to be home, even though we love being with our kids and stuff like that, I feel like my other kids, I don't get to see. Like I say that we say this to all the time to I say this to my basketball team, I say it to our baseball team. You guys are my kids. I'll go to war for you.
Yep.
I'll run through the wall if someone's talking about, I got you guys back. But so I think it's tough that we can't, as much as we're trying to connect with them, we're still not connected with them. And I think, you know, we try to do a lot for that, but you know, and I think that's the reason we coach is the kids. And you know, and when people realize that, and I think, you know, and I think we always say this as a coach, people don't understand, and like there's always gonna be haters, because like think about it, you look at the Red Sox lineup and say, I don't even know who the hell's their coach,
Right.
Renicky.
Yeah.
What's that lineup he's putting together? That's part of sports. I love that. You know, you can always question me. I have no problem with that. But like I think you and I both said it, don't ever question our commitment to the kids and doing what's right for the kids.
Yep.
So I think that's the important thing that people have to understand about why we coach, because I think you coach the same reason.
For sure. And I think you do. I see it behind closed doors. I see it in our meetings. I see it, you know, when we're just palling around in the office. Mm-hmm. You put things in perspective very well. It's not to say that parent phone calls or emails or this or that, this kind of chatter doesn't affect you, but you do kind of internalize it, and then you have a great way of reframing it. And I think that's really, really critical. And it's a testament to your attitude and your experience. You've seen it all, you've done it all, and all through these years. And you handle it in a way that, like you said, listen, people are going to argue with this. People are not always going to agree with who I bat leadoff with. And,
right.
Why
are you having a bunt there? We should all be playing, our launch angle has to be like, dude, listen, we're high school kids, and half of them they can't even bench press their own weight. So launch angle doesn't matter.
Right. That's a very good point. Very good point.
So,
well, I've appreciated you finally coming on. I mean, that's, my God, we could have done this years ago, but,
there was more deserving people. So
for sure. And there's going to be more to come. So let's pray to God that this is recorded and it has heard everything that we have just said, but we're going to sign off. I really appreciate Coach Gaucher coming on today, and we'll talk to you soon, brother.
See you, buddy. Love you.
Right, take care.